What is software? Do you think it's just apps and games, or Windows and Android, or do you think it's just something for tech people, or maybe just uh, for people that are interested in computers? Or do you think software is what makes devices work? Well, in this video, I'm going to try to explain what software is and just basically give you the basics of software in a bid to ensure that you guys can to join the moving trend of what's happening in the world. So follow me. What is software? What is software? Software is a set of instructions, like a set of data or programs that is used to operate computers and other electronic devices. In simple words, software tells the computer what to do. It's like a recipe that tells the cook how to prepare a meal. You see, the cook is sort of like the computer, and the kitchen is the hardware, and the software the computer uses is like the recipe the cook uses. Now, there are two main types of software. And these two types of software are the system software and the application software. Now, the system software is the software that runs the computer itself and manages all the parts inside the computer. And examples include the operating system, which you've probably heard of. I used to sing one song when I was in. I remember when I was in primary school. I used to have this song. Operating system is an act of interface between the user and the computer system. Whatever. That was the song I used to sing those days to help me remember what operating system was or is. Then that's a long time ago actually. And so that's one thing about learning with music. You hardly forget, and I never forget that song. I didn't sing it very well, but it was actually nice. I composed it myself, by the way. So maybe I should have to be a doctor. I'm actually capable of being a composer. Who knows? But anyways, operating system, it's like I said, it's like the Windows, the Mac OS, Linux, and even the Android and the OS you use, iOS you use. That's for Apple devices. Another example of system software are the device drivers, which help the computer to talk to things like the printer and keyboards. Then we have the utilities like antivirus and disk cleaner. So if you think of it, it's like the foundation and engine of a car, and it makes sure everything works properly. So system software is actually what ensures most devices work properly. Now, I said there are two types of software. So we have the system software, which I've mentioned and talked about. Then we also have the application software. And the application software is the software that we use to do tasks like typing, drawing, watching videos, browsing the internet. And some examples of application software are the Microsoft Word, which we use for documents, probably know that. Even WhatsApp, which you're using for chatting, and it's social media basically. Most social media applications are application software. And for browsing, the Google Chrome, or Zoom, even YouTube that we are currently on watching this video. It's an application software. And so there are basically tools and apps on your phone or your computer that help you to do something. Now let's compare and contrast software and hardware, because you've probably heard of software and hardware. Because many people confuse software with hardware. And so let's clear that up. Now you see, hardware is actually the physical part of the computer, so you can touch it. Whereas software is the programs that's inside the computer. You cannot touch software. So example of hardware include the keyboard, the monitor, the CPU, central processing unit. Whereas examples of software, uh, like I mentioned earlier, the Windows and Word, that's Microsoft Word, and no Photoshop. Those are the software, so you cannot touch software. Let's break down software even more. See, we have operating systems, and that's the OS. And operating systems, wow, my tongue just twisted. Operating systems are actually software that control and coordinate everything in your computer. So we have things like the Windows 10, the the Mac OS, the Linux, and Android. Those are the things that, that help to control and coordinate everything that's in your system, laptop, phone, whatever device you have. Then we have drivers, and the drivers help the operating system to talk to external hardware. And examples are like we have a printer device that you need to connect to your computer. So the printer driver eventually helps the computer to send commands to the printer. And so those are called drivers. Then we have the utility software, and the utility software helps to clean, to protect, and maintain your system. And those, of course, I'm sure you're guessing things like antivirus and like I mentioned earlier, the Dix cleanup tools. The application system is one that is most popular. Application software rather is most popular, and they can be of many kinds. You can have productivity apps, like word processors, spreadsheets, or you can have communication apps, social media apps, Zoom, WhatsApp. You can have educational apps like Duolingo, Khan Academy, for instance. They're educational apps, or entertainment apps like games or music player apps. Those are entertainment apps. Then, in addition to the application software, we have programming software. Now, programming software is used by developers to write other software. And examples of this programming software are actually things like the Python and the C++, Java, or the Video Studio. Those are the Video Studio code. Those are the programming software. Then we have the middleware. And the middleware connects the software or the system to another. Examples include maybe how your bank app um, is connected to a MasterCard or a Visa. So that's a middleware. Now, some real life examples of software. I want to find a way to relate it um, in a way that will be simplified for you. And uh, I think one way to do that would be to actually relate how different people use software in different areas of life, so you understand what software really is. So let's start. Well, I think as a student, for instance, let's have students. Some software they may use include things like Zoom or the Google Docs or even YouTube. Most students watch videos on YouTube to learn what's um, maybe having difficulty understanding. Or as a teacher yourself, in fact, we use PowerPoints, for instance, and the Microsoft Word, or even email to send important information to your class. Even a doctor like myself uses software, electronic health, for instance. Like, we try to keep our records electronically. So we have electronic health records and telemedicine app, for instance. So that's the software. Even as a farmer, software affects you because farmers need weather apps. They need apps that help them to know the prices of their produce. So market price apps, for instance, and many other apps. As a trader, you also need software because banking apps, for instance, or inventory software available. And an artist, drawing software like the Adobe Illustrator is also there. Even as a parent, Software actually plays a huge role in your life because there are apps that could help your parenting, like parental control apps and messaging apps, for instance, to communicate with your family. As a child, educational games and YouTube are also software. In fact, you have YouTube Kids for children. So whether you're in India or you're in US, Brazil, or Japan, you're already using software. If you've ever made a phone call, you've sent a message, or you browse the internet. So now that we've understand a bit of what software is, what or how rather does software work? Now, a simple explanation to how software works is you give an instruction, like you click, you click a button or you type something, and the software understands your command, and then it converts it to machine language. So, having done that, the computer hardware eventually performs the action. Then the software shows you the result. So this is how it works. Give a command, like I said, you either click or you type something. Then the the software will then convert that command to language that the computer will understand. That's the machine language. Then the computer hardware itself performs the action, and the software gives you the result. For example, you click play in a game. The game software runs the code, and the computer shows you the game screen. So that's how software works. So how is software made? And how is it used or updated? Uh, let's start by understanding how software is created. So to create software, people use programming languages, and this process is called software development or programming. So now, what are these programming languages that are used to create software? They are like special languages used to talk to computers. Examples of the programming languages are the Python, C++, Java, JavaScript, the HTML, and the CSS for websites. These languages help the software developers to write code, and code is actually like the instruction which the computer can follow. So you think of programming like a recipe, but for a computer. Now, who creates the software? Who creates the software we're using? Um, the creation of software is actually a combination of different aspects or I say rather different careers or kind of like activities. We have among them the programmers or the coders, and what they do, that's the programmers, they write the code. Then remember I said the code, by the way, are instructions that the computer can follow. So the programmers write the code. Then the software developers actually they plan and they build and sort of like test the software. Then we have the UI and the UX designers. Their role is to make sure the software is it looks good and is easy to use. And then we also have the project managers, which oversee the entire development process. And of course, we have people we call the testers. They check to see if the software works properly. So the team may actually work like a company. For instance, companies like Google, Apple, or even a small startup. So formulate a team that eventually help to create the software. Now, how is this software tested? Before the software is released, it's actually tested, and it's tested to check for bugs. Interestingly, by the way, bugs were actually um, the first bug was actually an actual insect, which was found in a computer, and so that's how the name bugs came about. So the software is tested for things like bugs, which are like mistakes or errors, or security problems, or even speed issues. And can also be tested for compatibility with different devices such as phones or tablets or laptops. Just like a new car is tested, just like a new car is tested before being sold, software is also like beta tested kind of by people before the final release. Now, in installing, updating, and uninstalling software, you've probably heard of that, but I'll try to expatiate more on what you've probably known. Now, Installing simply just means adding. You're adding new software to your device, e.g., when you download or install WhatsApp on your phone. That's installing. So you're adding a new software to your device. Updating, on the other hand, means getting a newer version that fixes bugs or errors, or even adds a new feature to the software you already have installed. And sometimes your phone may even say new updates available. So you're trying to update the software of your phone, to address the bugs or add new features. Whereas uninstalling is the opposite of installing, which means removing software you no longer want. And these actions are done through app stores like Google App Store or the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or even manually through like websites or settings. Some software are actually free and some are paid for. And free software is actually, what it means is you there's no cost to download or to use. Example, VLC and even WhatsApp, they are free softwares. Paid software, on the other hand, you must pay for it. You must buy it, like the Microsoft Office or the Adobe Photoshop. There's something called freemium. Freemium is actually the basic feature are free, whereas the advanced ones are actually like paid for. So they are freemium, so like free and premium. Then by the way, examples of those the freemium, I'm sure you know from your Spotify app or your Canva, they are freemium. So some features are actually free, and some are things you have to pay for to access. There's also the open source software. Really heard of open source AI. You know, and what that means is the it is free, and anyone can actually edit it, like edit its code. And examples are like Linux and Firefox. Firefox. Those are freemium, open source apps. Then we have the proprietary apps, which are owned by a company and cannot be edited. For example, the Windows or the Zoom. So the open source is actually like a community book. Or, okay, let me use. I was talking about recipe earlier, so let me use that as an app. So the open source is like a community cookbook. Everybody can actually have access to it and can edit it. Whereas the proprietary is like the secret recipe that a chef knows and only he alone has knowledge of or access to. There's something called the cloud-based software, and this is the software that I don't need to install. You just use it online. Examples of the cloud-based software are the Google Docs, like the Word, but it's online, and the Gmail. Gmail is actually like an email in the cloud. Then even Zoom, which is like software that helps you to do video calls without necessarily needing to install anything on your desktop. Now, what are the benefits of this cloud-based software? Because very obvious one is no space is taken on your device, and they're accessible from anywhere in the world, and they're always up to date. So then, I think I need to also clarify something on what is actually good software and what is bad software, because there's software everywhere in the world right now. But what is good software? Now, good software is actually the software that's easy to use, it's fast, it's responsive, it's safe from viruses and hackers, and it helps people to do real tasks. It gets regular updates and it works on many devices. Whereas the bad software is one that crashes often. I'm sure you have an app that's probably coming to mind right now. So we have bad software, they crash often, they they have a confusing interface, probably because of the poor work done by the UI UX designers. And bad software are actually slow, or they may even slow down your device. They expose your data, and they have bugs or errors. They're not even trusted by users, so those are bad software. An example of a good software, by the way, is Mm, Google Map, Google Maps. It's a good software. Most people use Google Maps. Whereas the bad software is like the unknown app that promises you heaven, promises you all the miracles in the world, but ends up stealing your data. So what? Let's relate software to everyday life. Let's see some examples, more examples. I mentioned some earlier, but let's see more examples on how software plays a role in our everyday life. Now, in health, software is used, like I mentioned earlier, in hospital record software or telemedicine app, or even diagnosis. So we have diagnostic tools that employ the use of software. For education, we have the Google Classroom or the Zoom or the Duolingo. The banking, we have the mobile banking apps, which virtually most people have nowadays, and the ATM software helps the ATM machine to work. The ATM, the ATM machine, automated machine. So you don't have to say ATM machine. So the ATM, you have the ATM to work. And the fraud detection systems. Then we have the transportation software, things like Uber, GPS system, the airline booking software. Those are actually transportation software. They're agricultural software like the weather trackers, and the market price software, the road mapping tools, and what have you. Even shopping, like Jumia, Amazon. But even POS devices actually have software running in them. So POS software at shops and media. People talk of Netflix nowadays, and YouTube, and Spotify, TikTok. That's media. And in construction too, software is important. We have design software like the AutoCAD, uh, I think the um, computed automobile device, AutoCAD, or the automated computer aided device, AutoCAD. Yeah, and project management apps. Even government use software like talk of the ID, trying to get uh, the ID database, and some tax software, and basically just national portals, websites. It's a software. For communication, which is arguably one of the most common software being used, things like Gmail, WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, and all of that. The software is nearly in everything we do. Software is nearly in everything we do. Next, we look at the history, future, and the careers in software. Let's talk about the short history of software. And to understand the history of software, we have to travel back in time to the 1800s. Um, that was before computers, and this was before the modern software we have today. People use manual instructions to control mechanical machines. The idea of giving instructions to machine actually dates back to the 19th century. That's the 1800s. With I used to remember this man. He's called Charles Babbage. Yeah, probably remember him too, Charles Babbage. And so it dates back to the 1800s with Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace. So they actually are people we kind of look at as the pioneering individuals to software, kind of. Now, the first computer programming was actually done by Ada Lovelace, who was, interestingly, she was an English mathematician that wrote kind of like, quote unquote, the code for the machine that was created um, by Charles Babbage. So those people actually played a role, and this was actually in the 19th century. Then, in the last century, that was before now, which was the 20th century, that was where we had the birth of modern software as we know it today. The first real software was created and it was created for huge computers. And this was mainly around the World War II, so the 1940s. Then the next decade, around the 1950s and the 1960s, there was a growth of software. So early software was actually written then by scientists, mathematicians, and engineers. They used programming language like the Fortran, which is like gotten from formula translator, and the COBOL, as well as BASIC. So these programming languages were born then. Then in the 1990s, where we had the internet age, and the world saw the rise of things like Windows and Mac OS, web browsers, websites. Software became useful for everybody, not just businesses around the 1990s. Then the 20 this century, that's since 2000 till now, you the mobile and the cloud revolution. By the way, I still rated a lot. I made a video on not being overhydrated because water actually has a negative side that people don't know about. That's just a short digression. Water intoxication, but it depends on the volume you're drinking. So it's advised to drink little sips, long times, especially when you're doing a lot of talking, sweating, or strenuous activity. But that's just a digression. So back to the discussion at hand. Now I talked about how uh, this century is what we call the mobile and cloud revolution, and softwares are found in like smartphones and tablets because with smartphones and tablets being portable, software was also made portable. And app stores, made it easy to get software. In fact, now software is everywhere, not just in your phones and tablets. It's in your cars, in your televisions. You have smart televisions, watches. People that have smart watches, fridges, and even farm tools actually have software. So that's the short history of how software that we know today came about. So how has software changed the world? See, software has changed our learning and our knowledge. And millions now study online. Some people use software like um, Coursera or Khan Academy. Even children in remote villages can actually learn from their tablets and from apps. Software has also changed the world in the way we communicate, uh, from handwritten letters. Our parents would talk about how they used to have to write, and I used to imagine it would be like it was. To imagine it was a lot. Imagine having to write and then wait weeks to get a response. My God. Probably by the time the response is coming, you've moved on from what you wrote about. It's crazy. And so software has actually helped in communication. We've moved from writing letters to um, WhatsApp videos and WhatsApp chats, text messaging across the world. And software has also helped in health. Surgeons use software. We have something we call robotic surgery, which is where robots are used. Of course, robots are run by software or guided rather by software. Or even like I mentioned earlier, the health records. So health data is stored and accessed safely through software. Even the money, see banks, um, most of them banks virtually run on software 247 nowadays, and they do that through mobile apps. Even cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they are all powered by software. Businesses also, like local businesses, now sell across the world, through software using apps, websites, or e-commerce tools. So software has changed how we work, how we learn, how we talk, heal, travel, feel. Basically, how we do everything. We read books, we play, how we bank, everything. So, what is the future of software? Software is actually still evolving, and it's evolving very fast, And here's how it's headed. One, likely very obvious to you right now, direction of software is artificial intelligence, AI. And that's where software is able to learn from experience, learn and train kind of from experience. Where it's used in chatbots and recommendation systems like YouTube, smart assistants like Siri, And even in medical diagnosis, I like to talk about medical diagnosis, I'm a doctor. But yeah, even in medical diagnosis, and the Internet of Things. So software is not just in laptops and tablets right now. We have virtually almost every device is being connected to software in a way, trying to link everything to the internet. And things like fridge, cars, thermostats, farms, trying to link them to the internet. So software controls and monitors all of them. Then we have robotics. My brother is a very huge fan of robotics. Actually, not just as a fan of robotics, a specialist in robotics. And he talks about robots and robots and robots. And I just look at him like, not everybody's interested in robots like you are, but anyway, that's something he's interested in. So, my elder brother. So, robotics is actually where software is headed, and robots will actually use software to work in hospitals and homes, factories, and even space. Then we have the augmented reality and the virtual reality, the AR and the VR, where um, software will be used to help create new virtual worlds for learning, for schooling, shopping, entertainment. It's interesting what's going to happen in the future. In fact, self-driving cars, future. I'm sure you probably by now they're already self-driving cars. It's no news to you right now. So, and are actually controlled by those self-driving cars are actually controlled by software using AI, artificial intelligence. They use sensors and real-time processing. Then we have the quantum computing, which is like a whole new kind of software, and it will be needed to do like ultra high, ultra powerful activities. And so this will be used, you in those high capacity, ultra powerful computers. Now, why should everyone learn software or the basics of software? I think, so far from the video I've made, you should have got one or two answers from that. But even if you're not a tech expert, you're not learning software is actually useful to you because um, software will help you to use your smartphones and your computers and ATMs wisely. And it also keeps you safe from online scams and, like I mentioned earlier, the bad apps. And by the way, it opens opportunities for as many as are interested in many careers, software careers, and it makes you smarter. It makes you a better user and a good. It makes your decision making better. It also helps to teach. It helps you to teach others, especially children or elderlies, and it helps to build problem solving and logic skills. So it's good to actually know at least some basics of software. Now, what are the careers? Because I mentioned careers in software. Some popular careers in software include the software developer. Now, what does the software developer do? What does the software developer do? Yeah, that's it. So he or she, or the software developer builds apps and websites and systems. Then we have the web software developer builds apps, websites, and systems. Then the web developer builds the websites or creates websites. Then we have mobile app developers too, and they build apps for Android, iOS. Then we have the game developers who make video games, and we have the AI and the machine learning engineers. And so these actually build smart software that learns. Of course, I mentioned the UI UX designers and the design easy to use interfaces. Then we have the cybersecurity analysts who protect systems from hackers. We also have data analysts who use software to study numbers and to study like the trends of things, market. And we also have DevOps engineers who manage software delivery and system management. Then we have the cloud engineers, and the cloud engineers actually build and manage cloud software. So no matter your background, medicine, music, teaching, business, farming, learning, Software can actually help you. So, in summary, what is software? Let's have a full recap of all I've mentioned. Now, I said software is a set of instructions that tells the computer or device what to do. And mentioned that it includes the operating system, includes the apps, includes tools and programs. And it's invisible rather, not invisible, but it runs everything and controls everything visible on your phone, on your laptop, your television, smart TV, car, your bank app. You know. It is created using what we call a code, set of instructions that make the computer perform activities, and by the code created by the developers, and it's used in all areas of life: education, health, communication, farming, business, government, what have you. It is changing fast, with AI and robots and smart systems, and everyone should understand and use software wisely. And many can even build career. The software is not just your computer. It's not just for computer people. It's for everyone, and it's everywhere. I hope eventually finding time. Rather, I hope this video will help you to develop an interest to learn more about something. So, with that said, I'll see you in the next video. Software. Okay. Why did I do that?